This podcast is sponsored by Skylight Calendar. Let's be real. Running a household can be exhausting and chaotic. And finding the perfect Mother's Day gift, it's not exactly a no-brainer. Until now. The Skylight Calendar is the best way to organize the family and give everyone, especially mom, some peace of mind to enjoy the things that matter most. The Skylight Calendar is a smart, touchscreen calendar that keeps track of and manages the chores, dinner planning, groceries, and to-dos for the whole family. The Skylight Calendar automatically syncs each family member's digital calendars and displays them all together on one color-coded touchscreen. It even doubles as a digital picture frame, so you can finally share all those special moments that are just sitting on your phone. As a limited-time offer for our listeners, get 15% off your purchase of a Skylight Calendar when you go to skylightcal.com/easy. That's SKYLIGHTCAL.com/easy. Get 15% off your Mother's Day purchase now at skylightcal.com/easy.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Hi, everyone. I'm Deb Flashenberg. Welcome to Yoga, Birth, Babies, a podcast produced by Prenatal Yoga Center. We will be diving into everything prenatal yoga, birth, and baby related, hoping to inspire, educate, and empower you through your journey into motherhood. Thank you for listening. Hi, I'm Deb Flashenberg. I am your host of Yoga Birth Babies, and today we have a community birth story. I love the community birth stories. I love birth stories. I get such a kick out of hearing the stories. Plus, I think they're so important for new parents and pregnant folks to hear the stories, the variations of birth, and to hear people that have gone through this and learn their wisdom. So today we have Alisone Bonafos. She finished our teacher training recently. She's an amazing teacher. And she was one of our prenatal students when she was pregnant. So I've had the joy of working with Alisone in depth, and she is a delight. She also has a really interesting birth story. So I'm excited for you to hear that. But what I really appreciated about our conversation is it wasn't just about the birth. She had some fantastic insight about coming through the other side after the baby was born and the journey with her partner during that time. And I just appreciated how open and vulnerable she was about some struggles that are very common but not spoken about. So I think you're going to get a lot out of this whole conversation. Before we get to that, I want to remind you to head to our website and check out our free downloadable 5 simple solutions to the most common pregnancy pains. I know at some point I'm going to get around to adjusting that to say pregnancy and postpartum because these are great for postpartum as well. So on the days that you can't come to class and yet, maybe your back hurts or your neck hurts or you're feeling kind of sunken in the chest, I've got some poses pretty quick and easy that you can do at home on your own so that you feel a little bit better until I can see you in class. And speaking of which, we are continuing our online classes. It has opened a door to a community that I could have never imagined, having been on the Upper West Side for so many years. Having the opportunity just this morning's class, we had somebody tuning in from New Orleans. We had someone tuning in from California. She reminded me, it's 3 hours earlier. I'm going to need my coffee through class. And I'm like, whatever you got to do. It's just been so nice. So we're going to continue that. But I want to offer a special gift to those that are showing up in class. So if you go to our website and you use the code YBB10, that will get you $10 off one of our online packages. I can't wait to see you in class. So if you're tuning into class from Listen to the Podcast, let me know. I'll give you a special hello. I also want to hear, are there any topics that I haven't covered? So we've been doing this for I don't know, 6 or 7 years. I don't even know anymore. And I feel like we've covered a lot of topics, but there's always more to talk about, more people to talk to, or maybe there's a topic I've done, but we want to have a different angle on it or see it through a different lens. So let me know, because I'm really here to provide for you. So you can reach out to me directly at deb@prenatalyogacenter.com, and you can just title it podcast. And that way I will know what you want to be heard and talked about. I'll take care of that for you. And then last thing I just want to remind people is that this September, October, we, fingers crossed, legs crossed, arms crossed, everything's crossed, we'll be back in the studio for our teacher training. We've done it online for 2.5 years. I think I've now done 9 online trainings. I've actually really enjoyed it, but we're going to be back in person. So we've got a very in-depth teacher training. I actually just added a new segment. There is an amazing teacher, Jacoby Ballard, and he does a whole piece on inclusion. That's really important to us, to have an inclusive community. And so he does a whole segment, a whole conversation about the LGBTQ inclusion in a prenatal class. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that, because it's really been a great addition to our training. So our training's in depth. It's thorough. It is diverse, and it's exciting. So if that interests you, check out our website, prenatalyogacenter.com, grab your free downloadable, check out our classes, check out our website. All right, that's enough of me. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, please enjoy my conversation with Alisone.
Hey there. Did you know Baker's always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower than low prices? And when you download the Baker's app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Baker's today. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Hi, Alisone. How are you?
Doing great, Deb. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to hear your story. So first, I know that you're traveling right now, right? Where are you?
I'm in southern France.
Oh.
It's a little town called Hyères-les-Palmiers.
I am so jealous. I've been to southern France many, many years ago, and it is beautiful with the most delicious wine. I did a bike trip through there, myself and a friend. We were given maps and we rode our bikes all around. It's gorgeous. So I am deeply envious of you right now, but I will try to get over that as we have our chat about your birth. So yay. All right. So I guess let's start with, I want to learn a little bit more about you. I got to know you during our teacher training a bit and when you were a student, but obviously there's so much more. So just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I was born and raised in the Ivory Coast in West Africa, and all my family still lives there. And I went to introduce my baby Sienna, who's almost 9 months. So she already traveled to the Ivory Coast and now to France, which is crazy.
Lucky girl.
And I work for a nonprofit called the International Rescue Committee. And I feel very lucky that I support their West Africa program. So before COVID, I got to travel extensively to my birth region and to visit my family at home. And that's how I started to practice yoga, because that was the one thing I could take with me during my trips. And that's how I started to teach as well to people around me who were interested. And I practice Ashtanga daily. I practiced throughout my pregnancy. And I got very interested in teaching people because it seems like a lot of people around me were interested. And logically, after giving birth and taking classes with you, I felt the urge to learn about prenatal yoga. So, yeah, that's a bit about me.
So just curious about your pregnancy and your yoga practice. I know that you did study at PYC for a bit. How much Ashtanga were you still doing?
I continued with my practice every day until I gave birth.
Oh, wow.
But I took some workshops to learn about the way to modify some poses.
Mm-hmm.
I think I took a workshop with Harmony Slatter. I don't know how to say her name. Have you heard of her?
No, but I'll look her up.
Yeah, she teaches workshop for pregnant Ashtangis.
Oh, that's a very specific niche.
Yes. And what else? I read a very interesting book. I think it's Yoga Sadhana for Mothers. And that also talks about women who practice Ashtanga and are in different places of their birth journey. Some of them trying to conceive, some of them pregnant, some of them on the other side with children. And so they all shared the way they were taught traditionally to practice Ashtanga, but also what they personally did, right? Because at the end of the day, you're responsible for your practice and what feels safe for you or not. And so that was really helpful.
So for listeners that may not be in the yoga world deeply, Ashtanga is a style of yoga that generally tends to be pretty strenuous. There's many different families of yoga, and that tends to be, at least in my perception of it from having practiced it for a little bit, a pretty strenuous practice that has different series, and there's not a lot of deviation from those. So interesting. So tell me a little bit about what was your pregnancy like?
My pregnancy was a bliss. And I'm sorry for the women who may have issues. I feel like I, from the beginning to the end, I was able to do a lot, and that's all I wanted and hoped for. I was able to continue with my practice, even if like modified, and to the end, I was mostly in child's pose, white knee child's pose. But I was able to walk, and that was very important for me. I picked up the idea that I was preparing for a lot of work. So a doctor early on told me, you're preparing for a marathon, try to walk 5 miles every day. So I did that. I went on backpacking trips up to like 8 months pregnant with my husband. And it was just wonderful to be able to walk, be outdoors, even like sleep, with not too much discomfort. I did have some body aches. I had tailbone pain. I had round ligament pain. My hips were really, really fragile towards the end. Like they would crack when I would walk.
Wow.
So it wasn't like all easy. Like I really felt like an old lady towards the end, but I feel like that's why, because I wanted to do so much and I wanted to keep moving so much. But yeah,
I think being active is really clearly, I think that as I teach yoga and I'm a very active person, I think if one's body is capable of being active, it's a really, it can be very helpful mentally and physically. And then also giving grace for those that for whatever reason cannot, finding ways to be active, and maybe someone's stuck in bed and they can still do some upper body stuff or meditate in pranayama. But I'm glad to hear that you were out and about. I think that's, mainly for the brain.
I want to say I really love the fact that I was able to breathe. These were both like low impact activities, yoga and walking, and it helped me to connect with my breathing. And I feel like that was really, really important. So just like being able to even just sit on a chair and do some breathing and gentle stretches, like I would try to do that as much as I could.
That's smart. All right. So the big thing is I want to talk about your birth story, and it's quite a story. So actually, before we get into that, we're going to take a super quick break, and when we come back, I can't wait to hear the details because I know a little bit, but I can't wait to hear the details of your birth story. We'll be right back.
Hey there! Did you know Baker's always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower than low prices? And when you download the Baker's app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Baker's today. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Okay. The floor is yours. Go.
I don't really know where to start, but so basically, when I shared a story with friends, I said there were three things I was sure of. I was sure that I would give birth past my due date, and I was really afraid of that because I wanted to try to have an unmedicated birth, so I had a doula. I was reading a lot. I took your classes. I was trying to prepare myself for that. And I thought my birth would be very long and difficult. And for some reason, I thought there would be poop involved.
Sometimes there is.
And only the latter happened. So I think that 37 weeks and 5 days in, I had my baby. So the first element of my theory proved to be wrong. I was really not expecting to give birth. It happened really, really quickly. Just to give you an idea, I woke up at 11:45 p.m. and my baby was born by 1 a.m.
All right, so give us all of what happened in that time, because as much as people say, oh, I want a really fast birth, it can feel overwhelming. It can, for some, not everyone, it can feel overwhelming if you've mentally prepared for, this is going to take a long time. I'm going to breathe through all these different stages. And then when it's kind of wet and wild and fast, it could feel like one's head is spinning. They're like, what is happening? So give me a little more of the detail between you woke up, what was going on.
Yeah, it was overwhelming. I had kind of an out-of-body experience where, now that I think of it, I feel like I knew what was going on, but I wasn't sure because it's my first baby. And you try to prepare, you try to think about what a contraction looks like, but you don't know. So I just woke up and I went to the bathroom once, very shortly, and I tried to go back to bed. And then I realized that I needed to go to the bathroom a little longer. And it felt really unusual because I had never been sick throughout my pregnancy, and I had kept a quote unquote healthy diet. I hadn't changed anything in my diet that day. So it felt weird that I was sick to my stomach. So I thought, maybe I'll try to look on my phone and see if that's related to birth. And it was. Apparently for some women, not all, every birth is different. The body creates space for the baby to come out. Mm-hmm. And that happens, according to Google, 2 to 3 days before birth.
Yeah, your body wants to empty out. It's like it's evacuation in a sense.
Yeah, so I wasn't nervous because I was feeling good. And shortly after, I felt like my breathing pattern had changed, but I still felt good. So I just decided to relax. My doula had showed me a pose, when you sit on your toilet facing the wall with a little pillow under your cheek. And I was just there. It was a very, very hot day. It was mid-June in Southern California. So it just felt really good to be in the bathroom with the floor really cold. And I was just breathing there. I had a glass of water and I was just trying to be completely relaxed. And I texted her because I could feel that something was different, And she said, it seems like you're in early labor. So I felt confident that everything was fine. And eventually, I started to feel a lot of pain. And I screamed because it was really, really sharp pain. And my husband came in. The first thing he did is that he closed the windows. And I was like, come on, that's your only concern right now.
Because it was probably, what, like midnight at this point, or?
Yeah, it was 15 minutes before she was born, basically. That's all he got.
Oh, my goodness.
And he said, come on, Alison, turn towards me. What's going on? And I said, I can't move. I don't feel like I can move. So I just turned to face him, and he was like kneeling in front of me, trying to make eye contact with me. And he said, what's going on? And I said, I don't know. I feel like something's coming out. And I said, please call the doula because she's aware. And he did. And she asked if there was blood. And so I looked around and I was like, yes, there's a lot of blood. So she said, it seems like it's the bloody show. And I was like, okay, what should we do? And she suggested that we call the hospital because I was just screaming all the time. And I said I was in so much pain that it wasn't normal. And so we did, but they said, come here. And I said, there is no way. I'm leaving my bathroom. I want someone to come here because I didn't, I felt like it was impossible to leave. I had this feeling that I cannot just stand on my feet. And I was pushing, and I told my husband, why am I pushing? It's too early to push, because I was prepared for this very long labor. And I thought, oh my God, am I going to push for 9 hours? And he didn't know what was going on. We had no idea. And at some point I just said, listen, the baby is coming out. I can feel something. It's like, it's coming out. So you've got to catch her. And I said, now. And he just did. And we don't really remember because it was so fast. She literally just slipped out.
So were you still on the toilet at this point, or where were you?
Yeah, but I was like on the edge.
Okay. So you got yourself turned around.
Yes. And he was kneeling in front of me, basically with his arm reaching towards me. That was really dangerous when we think about it. But we didn't have time to think, So we just had no idea. Even when we talked to 911, we said, we don't know. So he had to call them back and say, well, please come because the baby's here now.
So you barely, you were your body was instinctually pushing.
Yes. And I couldn't control it. It was just, I tried to breathe. I tried to count. I tried to make it stop, but nothing was working. And it was just like my body doing the work.
Yeah. My friend Nikita calls that, she's had 3 kids, and she calls that vomiting out of your vagina. Like, when you have to throw up, like you could put your hands over your mouth, but it's still coming out. So for some people,
it was super frustrating because it wasn't my body. Like, it was like, I have no control over what's going on.
So he caught your baby. Your husband caught your baby.
And then when the longest seconds of our life, I couldn't look at the baby because in my head, something was wrong. And I thought maybe like she's dead. Maybe she was dead for a few days. I had never really felt my baby move a lot. She was a very calm baby. And maybe the way she was laying in my belly, it was always very hard for me to feel her move. And I was like, maybe something's wrong,
That must have been terrifying. Well, tell me about that. Tell me how you got to the other side of that.
I was just looking at him and he was looking at her, and, like nobody was really looking at each other. And I was just waiting for him to tell me. I asked several times, is she breathing? And in my head, I was like, why isn't he saying anything? And I kept saying, is she breathing? Nick, tell me. And he was saying nothing. And I was like, come on, tell me, is she breathing? And eventually he said, yes. And then it was like a little yes. And then it was like a big yes. And then it was like, yes, she's breathing. She's alive. She's fine. It was like I was able to breathe at that point. It was really, really hard because I think we talked about it later and he thought she was dead too.
Oh, wow. So the reason he wasn't answering is because he was trying to grasp what was going on?
Yes. He didn't know. And she didn't even, in the movies, you think babies scream and we didn't even hear her. He could see she was breathing, but she never really cried. And so that was hard for us to say, is she really okay?
Wow. So when did 911 show up? Because you still have the placenta in you.
So then he gives her to me and he picks up the phone. And now I'm like standing with her in my arms, but the umbilical cord is still inside of me.
Correct.
And so I'm like really rounding because I'm afraid of like pulling it out. I don't know what to do. And he says, we need help. What do we do with the cord? They say, don't do anything. So I tried like not even move. I'm afraid of moving. And they say, what about the placenta? And as soon as I heard, it was on speakerphone. And as soon as I heard the word, I say, oh, it's coming. Just like the baby. I'm like, it's coming. I'm like, what do I do? Do I go back on the toilet? And they're like, no, you stay where you are. And I'm like, really? Standing on my feet? They say, okay, if you want, put your knees down. And I just try to gently, because the baby's in my arms, put my
And it's
knee
a hard
down.
bathroom floor.
Yeah. And as soon as my knee touched the floor, I feel like a gash and the placenta comes out.
Wow.
And I just have no idea of the timing, because it was just so insane. It was like an out of body experience where I was like witnessing myself doing these things. And I'm there in my bathroom floor with my newborn baby and I see 5 like huge men coming through the door. And I can't take it anymore. And my arms are shaking. And I don't even know if people heard me. I was just like, please take her. Please take her. Please take her. And then I passed out.
You passed out?
And she fell on the floor, but we were really close to the ground. And later on, they did a scan and they said nothing was wrong with her. But that was like also, I felt really, guilty. Because she was just born a few minutes ago, and I already dropped her. But yeah, I woke up. She was already the cord was already cut. She was with her dad, and they were trying to get me out of the apartment. But because I passed out, we were separated. There were 2 ambulances, one for her and one for me. And so my husband went with her, and that was really hard too.
Yeah. Did they know why you passed out? Was it a drop in blood pressure? Was it blood loss?
I think so. They don't know. They did a lot of tests because we spent 3 days in the hospital, and I passed out like 6 times. Every time I tried to stand up on my feet. So I don't know if it was like maybe like the shock, as you said, like a drop, maybe like the loss of blood. But I was just really, really weak physically.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't walk for 3 days. I walked the last day pushing my wheelchair around. And that's because my husband and the nurses forced me to, because they say we can't let you go if you can't walk. We want to see that you can walk by yourself.
So tell me about how that was heading to the hospital and then reuniting with baby and your mind. I'm guessing your mind was kind of racing. I don't know. You can share that with like being separated from your baby. Will you fill in some of that?
Yeah, it was so hard. And I feel like we were really fighting with the hospital. It wasn't in our hospital because it was an emergency. So we were transferred to a county hospital where nobody knew us. And Sienna was in NICU, and we weren't together. They were running tons of tests. I mean, it was just crazy because it was like also still COVID. And we arrived in the hospital with my husband after being isolated for like years. And like there were 30 people waiting for us because they thought it was going to be something really bad, right? Because they said like, baby born at home, like in the bathroom, mom passed out. So they were really ready for like an emergency. And it ended up being like a happy story. But at the beginning, nobody really knew. And because also I had, I forgot, you did a podcast recently on it. I had strep B.
Oh, yep. Groupie strep.
And so I just immediately like thought of telling them that because I knew that my baby may be sick, because I gave birth at home, and you can give more explanation to the listeners about it.
Yeah, it's a bacteria in the vagina that I think about a third of people have, and it's one of those things that you're supposed to have. Ideally, 2 doses of the birthing person have 2 doses of antibiotics prior to the birth of the baby. Because if they go through the vaginal canal and the parent has it, the baby can contract it. But now if a baby's born, like Allison says, quickly, then they observe the baby to see if it has signs of groupie strep. So, little side note.
Yeah, so they kept her for 3 days to be able to observe that, and they kept observing it after we left. I think they take they just like in the lab, they look at it for a week, I think, and they call you back if something's wrong, but everything seemed to be fine. They never call us back. But also because we had been separated, she was hypothermic, so immediately they had to put her in one of these little giraffe box. I think that's how they call them, right? And they gave her IV. And what was super hard for us is that first of all, we didn't know if everything was wrong. And doctors, they always tell you the worst case scenario. And they treated her like she was a NICU baby, while she was actually just a baby being born at home, and she was healthy. But especially in terms of breastfeeding, that was hard for me because I wanted to breastfeed, and they wanted her to have a lot of wet diapers. And I remember that I was kind of fighting with them because I said, because she had the IV, that's why she, on her first few hours of life, she wet 6 diapers. But now she's breastfeeding, and a baby who's breastfed, they don't wet that many diapers until they get 6 days old. And I was kind of fighting with them because they kept saying that they wouldn't let her leave until they were sure that breastfeeding was well established. And I said, breastfeeding's fine. Like I was a new mom, and I knew everything was fine. And they had to teach us how to use the SNM. Is that it?
I don't know what that is. What is that?
It's a way to breastfeed for baby who have difficulties to breastfeed. It's basically you pump your milk, you hold it up, and then you have a tube that you tape against your nipple.
Oh, I have seen that. I didn't know the name of that. Yeah. So it looks like they're getting extra. They're getting like a supplemental bit. And some people use formula and some people use breast milk. Yeah.
What the NICU nurses wanted, they wanted to see the quantity that she was eating because they couldn't tell with a breastfed baby, and none of the other babies were breastfed, at least in that NICU. So they wouldn't let us leave the hospital without us having learned how to master this technique because they were just being extra cautious. And I just wanted to go home.
Yeah, that must have been very frustrating.
Yeah. They were going to discharge me, but keep her. And I didn't want that.
So was she small? I'm just curious why they were so,
She was like 2.6 kilos.
What's that in pounds?
That's how they say it in the hospital, though.
Okay. I'll look it up.
They say in kilos now.
Huh. Okay. I don't know what that is in pounds, but I will look that up. Okay.
I'm going to tell you. 2.6. I'm doing it right now. It's 5.7.
Okay. So
it's not too small. She's in like a low percentile of weight, but it's not that bad, I think.
So when did you all go home?
So we were super lucky because we had the last nurse that worked with us in NICU was really understanding, and she seemed to see that we were committed parents and responsible people, and she advocated on our behalf, and she said we were going to be fine. And we were waiting for Sienna to wet an extra diaper, and we were all praying because they basically threatened that if she didn't wet by a certain hour her extra diaper, they would keep her. And she did wet it, and we were super stressed. And guess what? She spent the entire night peeing. And I was like, oh my God, they were going to keep her, and she would have peed all night in the hospital.
Yeah. So now that you're on the other side of this, and it really seems very emotional. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's funny. We talk about in prenatal yoga, we talk about birth trauma, and it doesn't mean like trauma to the child, but it could be traumatic in an experience that was unexpected or overwhelming. So now that you're on the other side of this emotional experience, how have you processed it?
I think I told you that during the teacher training, but I was so scared, and we were just on our own with my husband, and sometimes he had to leave because we had our dog alone at home, and she was also very traumatized by what happened, and she wouldn't let anybody get near her. So I think he left the hospital 2 to 3 times. So sometimes I was by myself, and I couldn't really sleep, although I could rest because the nurses were taking care of Sienna. And I just used my meditation mantra, and I just kept saying, may I be healthy, may I be happy, may I be safe, may my baby be healthy, may my baby be happy, may my baby be safe, may my husband be healthy, may my husband be happy, may my husband be safe. And I just like keep, just repeating this makes me emotional. Because I needed to think that we would be okay.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for him too, because he admitted, he told me way later that these few times that he left the hospital, he would just like sit in the car and cry. Because he also, he didn't have much time to process. And I think especially for fathers, it's hard because they don't carry the baby. They think they have time before the baby arrives. And we were like 37 weeks and 5 days pregnant. So I'm sure he thought he had plenty of time. The day before, he went to see a baseball game. And also he saw me pass out 6 times, and he told me like, you turned yellow, your eyes were fluttering. So he was really scared for me too, and I was living the things, which sometimes is easier than just watching and not being able to do anything. But the good thing, the silver lining aspect of this is that we both felt like if we had done this together, alone, really alone, we wanted to be home with our baby, and we could take care of our baby. And we had never done any of the baby care things, but we weren't afraid. We instinctively, it's crazy to say that, but we knew how to take care of her. And there were a few things, of course, that we didn't do right, but we weren't, how would I say? You know, sometimes for new parents, you can be a little afraid of hurting the baby or handling the baby. There was none of that with us. We were just like completely involved in providing for this baby.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So to get to the other side of, I'm not sure if there's another side. Maybe I should rephrase that. To embody this experience, was it talking it through or rethinking or talking with your husband to let it settle? Because it was so emotional for you and for him.
Yeah, and I think it was really emotional for our relatives. No, for her, for sure. I think we won't discover until long the impact on her. I'm sure there is some. But you know what? She's an extremely calm and gentle baby, and everybody tells us that. So I don't know, maybe she came quickly, but she came at peace, healthy, you know, happy. She was maybe just ready.
Yeah, there's something that your body's like, okay, we're ready. And your baby's like, let's go down this wild slide and come on out. Do you think you'll share this story with her at some point?
Yeah, you know, sometimes people think, oh, don't ever tell her this story. This is too traumatic. Or like nobody wants to know they were born in the bathroom, you know, let alone like, you know,
I was almost born
on
the highway heading to the hospital. My mom tells me that story all the time. She tells everyone that story all the time. So I think there's something to, you know, sharing that story. As you know, from prenatal teacher training, the stories we hear about our births, they interweave into how we view birth. So your daughter might hear the story of being born at home, being caught by her father as an endearing story, as a story of confidence and courage, and that recognizing that the body has some deep intelligence and that she was a part of that. I'm just putting that spin on it. That's how I like to see that lens.
And no, I love that. And something that I really enjoy from your podcast and your classes is that the baby have their way. And I think she chose her way. And it's not only my birth story, it's her birth story. And I think she's really strong. And I hope she keeps being strong-headed in her life, you know, as she grows. And maybe this story can help her know that.
It could be interesting to notice, like, is she going to be a very confident, strong, steady, sturdy person with some fire behind her? Like you wouldn't expect it because of the calm demeanor, but then there's like that fire, like, I get it done my way. I don't know. I'm just thinking about a calm baby kind of flying into the world. We will see. My daughter's like that. Her birth was fast, not as fast, but literally pushed for like 6 minutes. And I remember yelling, I think something's coming out. And she's so kind and empathetic, but yet like, don't cross her. She's like a gremlin that way. So who knows?
In a way that was faster than me. Pushing was 15 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, it was second baby, but literally I remember yelling, something's coming out. So we're going to take a break, but when we come back, what is one thing you wish someone had told you about pregnancy, birth, or postpartum that you want to share with the community? We'll be right back.
Hey there. Did you know Baker's always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower than low prices? And when you download the Baker's app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Baker's today. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
We are back. So is there something you wish you had known beforehand?
Yes. and I had heard it, but I hadn't understood it. So I'm not sure it's going to be helpful, but I think it's important to repeat it. Birth is unpredictable. And I think it's the case for postpartum as well. So really important to prepare yourself for birth and postpartum, but just be ready, I think, to go through a long journey through which you will often feel alone. I think for a lot of us pregnant people and parents, you things will not happen the way you think they will, and you will be put to the test. And I just want people to remember that they're not alone. They may feel alone. Sometimes they may even cherish the fact that they're carrying so much on their shoulders because they feel like this is their duty to their child. And because we live in a society where everybody power through, but they don't have to be alone. And I think the huge relief comes from when you're able to ask for help and accept help and find ways to live this story with other people, because we need support, we need community, and that's how we find ourselves, again.
I appreciate
I don't know if it makes sense.
That makes sense. Absolutely. How has postpartum been for you?
It's been okay up to 6 months of age. And that was really surprising. I remember reading about postpartum and how in my mind it was either you're super happy, you're connecting with your baby, it's the most wonderful times of your life for bonding. And on the other end, you have a depression. And I just come to realize, and the more I discuss with other moms, a lot of people feel the same that I do. It's like there's so many things in between these two versions. And so I was very surprised when I ended up in the middle, because I thought, my relationship with my partner was really sturdy. I thought he was my rock. I thought he's my best friend, he's everything to me. There's never going to be an issue. But I especially both of us came to a point around 6 months that we weren't sleeping at all. And that sounds stupid, right? Because it's just sleep. But we became different people, and we stopped communicating, and we stopped sharing moments together. And we kind of grew apart. And I was on survival mode, like I'm surviving and I'm trying to make my baby survive. And so it was hard to communicate, and it was hard to ask for help. And I think it was very frustrating for him because he wanted to help, but there was no room for him to. Mm-hmm. And so it was a lot. And now we're doing much better. And we all sleeping much better. But yeah, it came at also, the birth was so fast, and that was unexpected. And I thought, the first few months of the baby would be hard, but actually it became really hard around 6 months, and that I didn't expect. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think you hit on something very common in the first several months, is that you get into that, all right, let's survive. Let's keep this baby alive. Let's keep moving forward. And then baby around 6 months, a little bit more independent, that, maybe starting solids, maybe not feeding quite as much, maybe a little more grounded in sleep. But then if you don't check in with your partner, because let's face it, you're just trying to stay above water, it is a very important opportunity to check back in with each other. And it's really hard. It's really, really hard because, again, you're in that survival treading water. So I'm glad that you that you shined a light on that so that other people that may be in that position are like, okay, yes, let's check in with each other, or put on their radar. What is solid may start to feel a little bit slippery, and to come back to your partner. So thank you for sharing, thank you for being honest and vulnerable about that, and giving light to something that I think others need to hear and think about.
And something that helped me, that I just want to share is that I read this book for the teacher training. I read it actually when I was pregnant. It's Transformed by Birth.
Don't you love it? Don't you love it? Let's just take a moment and say Transformed by Birth, Britta Bushnell. It's an amazing book. Okay. Sorry, I interrupted, but I love that book.
And she did say, the first year of the baby, and I appreciate that, because you focus on the first few months, but it's actually the entire year is really difficult.
Yeah.
She said it's a challenging time for the person who carried a baby, but for the parents together, for the relationship. And she personally had to put a lot of work to stay strong with her husband. And I really like that. She says relationships are like a garden. I think something like that. And they need to be nourished. They thrive with sun and joy and humor. And they need a lot of work. And I like that, because I had forgotten, how important my relationship with my husband is, and that we made this baby together because we love each other and we wanted to create a family. And so why was I putting a distance between us, and seeing me and my baby as like a team trying to survive, and him being the one not helping or coming on board. He just wants to help. Everybody around you wants to help, but you have all these hormones, you're dealing with new identity, and somehow you may feel like you alone and people around are your little enemies. It's not true. Everybody around you wants to help, but they don't know how.
Yeah. Well, that's a beautiful, beautiful thought. I appreciate that. I really do. And again, the openness for others to recognize that it can be a really bumpy place. It can be a really bumpy place. So thank you. Oh, Alisone, I loved this conversation. It was so much more than a birth story. It was really just, I loved going on this experience with you. Thank you so much for sharing.
And I want to do a shout out to the prenatal yoga training, because it was wonderful. Like, I learned so much in teaching prenatal yoga, anatomy, but also a great way to revisit my birth story, revisit my postpartum experience, trying to take some distance, really life-changing. So Thank you, Deb.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. I love teaching it, and I loved having you a part of it. It really, I'm going to say, granted, it's a really special program. So I'm so glad that you're a part of it. And thank you. Oh, well, I look forward to chatting another time. Thank you so much.
This has been an episode of Yoga Birth Babies, produced by Prenatal Yoga Center. You can catch us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope. I'm Deb Flaschenberg. Thanks for listening.